Welcome to the Final Furlong podcast and our review of the Dublin Racing Festival, which we are going to subtitle, "We told you we were right! Go on, Factor-File, you absolute beauty!" 14 to 1, 12 to 1, 10 to 1, 8 to 1 was the last price. He's now 6 to 4 for the Turners Novice Chase after winning the Grade 1 Ladbrokes Novice Chase and crushing Gaelic Warrior. The question is, though, Katie Young, who was there, what did he actually achieve in winning a match race that descended into a complete and utter farce?
Yeah, it was a real shame that this kind of ended up as a match race, as you said, and it did look as though it was going to be one of the races of the weekend to look forward to. I thought all credit to Factor-File. He was ultra impressive in the race. It did probably fall apart, but I don't think you can ignore how easy he has done this. I kind of mentioned on a previous podcast that I was under the impression he had plenty of boot for a horse of his size. I don't think he looks in any way short of pace at all. I did think he actually put in a better round of jumping when he won his beginners at Leopardstown at Christmas. I thought he was jumping a little bit to his right. I'm not sure whether he was just following what Gaelic Warrior and what he was doing. Wasn't ideal to see for me. I'm hoping that he irons out and that was a one-off. I think he did it a little bit at Christmas, but it wasn't that noticeable. But I did really notice it here on Sunday. I don't think we've seen the true running of Gaelic Warrior. I actually wouldn't be surprised if he did something in this race or something that came out in the woodwork maybe this week. But I did not like the way his stride shortened after that mistake 4 out. He went from a beautiful long stride to a really short, choppy stride. I think if you look back at that race, you'll see what I mean. And you can really see turning in that Paul just wasn't happy with him. I wasn't happy with the way he was moving at all. He did not look comfortable in the way he was hitting the ground. I hope he's okay. I haven't heard anything, but yeah, something might just come up with him there. Definitely not the true running from him anyway. But sticking to my guns, he definitely is a better horse going right-handed. Left-handed, I just don't see the true running of him here. And he's kind of proved my point here. If all is well with him, you'd hope to be kind of connections might keep him to the Fairy House, Punchestown festivals maybe. As I suggested, right-handed is probably the key to him. Factor-File, I think 2 mile 4 is his kind of trip this season. I think he'll get the 3 mile trip absolutely no problem in time, but I just don't see there's any need to step him up yet this season. He's doing everything right over 2.5 to 2.5. If you go and look at and compare to what he did against Hartwood, so if you compare them races, I think he was about 3 or 4 seconds quicker than Hartwood on the same card, carrying, I think, 23 pound more, and he hacked from the back of the last to the line. You consider handicap, how quick they go in those handicaps. Gaelic Warrior must have gone some gallop around there for Factor-File to end up finishing cantering off the back of the last, not doing a stroke, carrying 23 pound more than Hartwood and 3 seconds quicker. And Hartwood was galloping through the line. I just, if you compare those two, I just think, wow, unbelievable performance from this horse. I don't think he quite got the credit he deserved because it ended up being a match race. But yeah, I just think he's the outstanding horse so far we've seen this season.
You're spot on. 5:27.20 was the winning time for Factor-File. 5:30.30 was the winning time for Hartwood, who's a horse we've talked about on this show before. They held him in pretty high regard, and now you know why. He's absolutely bolted up there. I don't think Percival de Garwas would have beaten him, by the way, and that horse just needs to get his jumping sorted out.
No.
Such a confident ride from Rachel Blackmore in that race too. If he had been in against Factor-File, Factor-File would have crushed him. So it was a really clever piece of placing from the Bowhead team. Yeah, he'd no way would he have. It's disappointing that American Mike wasn't there, and American Mike isn't exactly a horse that you're setting your watch by, but at least Factor-File would have beaten him, turned around the form from the Novice Chase, and you'd have some guide. But again, he's not exactly a horse you'd be hanging your hat on, and Grange Clare West not being there was a real disappointment. He was cast in his box. There was a bit of concern in Willie Mullen's voice talking to Lydia Hislop on Racing TV about him. Nothing has come out since, but hopefully he's okay and will be headed to the Cheltenham Festival. Just the worry is they wanted to run him. They were going to run him. and they weren't able to. So that's not a great ideal preparation for him. I did get slightly nervous, George Gorman, when Mark Walsh was talking to Lydia Hislop. As I'm singing and dancing and going, we told everybody, the three of us telling everyone, this is the horse to be on for Cheltenham, 10-1 now. He'll be favourite for the Turners on the back of this. And then Mark gives an interview to Lydia Hislop, and Lydia mentioned it afterwards as well, saying she thought he was leaning Brown Advisory, and was like, no, don't screw us. Don't screw us, Mark Walsh. Surely Turners is the race they're going to go for. He's favourite for it, and we know that Willie Mullins doesn't like to pass up races he's favourite for at Cheltenham.
He'd have his best chance in the Turners, wouldn't he? Like, it's not like, if you were talking Arkle or Turners, I can see the logic behind potentially like running him in an Arkle, because the worst that's going to happen is he might be run off his feet, but it's a much more open looking contest. If Grange Player West and et al. Rock up in the Brown Advisory, you're not only talking about taking on a potentially tougher task, you're also talking about skipping from bumpers to 3-mile chases in less than a season, and you're also having to deal with the fact that he might run quite keen in that race if they don't go a right gallop. So I think Turners is the logical place to go with him. I'd agree with Katie. I'd be slightly more on the side of he was definitely following Gaelic Warrior when he's jumping out to his right. I'd be a bit more adamant that was what it was. And I just think Gaelic Warrior is, like you said, that you look at the time and you look at how much ground Gaelic Warrior gave away. I just think he was absolutely emptied by the time Factifile got to him, and he's made that little peck on landing and he's emptied. Because you look how much ground he gave away around there, and for the time to end up being so quick, that's a monumental effort. He was taking 5-6 lengths out of Factifile on every straight and giving it all away again on the bends. Like, for the time to have still been that quick, he's got to have exerted a lot of energy to the point of the fourth last where he's made that little sort of peck on landing. I'd be less in the cat. If something did go wrong with him, it was after that mistake. But he could just have completely emptied out as well. I wouldn't be sure which one it is, but either way, I don't think it takes away from Factifile, if that makes sense. Because I think if something's gone wrong with him, Factifile already had him beat. And if nothing's gone wrong with him, he's emptied out. Factifile's gone the same gallop and kept going. He's gone with him. Like, he's had the pace to go with him, even though, like I said, he was helped by Gaelic Warrior trying to go up the middle of the track round the bend. But he's had the pace to go with him. He's had the jumping sort of, at least hang on to his coattails down the straights. I think it was a very impressive performance, even considering it was a match race, really.
I love this performance from Factifile. I loved every single thing about it, especially the fact that the bookmakers cut him to 6-4 for the Turners afterwards. If you followed us in, welcome on board the Final Furlong podcast, Factifile Gravy Train. Don't screw us, Mark Walsh. Do not screw us. Don't screw us, Frankie Tightlips. Head to the Turners, win it. I don't fear anything there. Ginny's Destiny, we'll take you on, son. In terms of Gaelic Warrior, just trying to understand what happened. Look, he's obviously a very, very talented horse. The three of us were really concerned about him at Cheltenham. He's now been pushed out to 5-1. I'd be with Katie. He shouldn't go to Cheltenham. He's compromised going left-handed. He was very keen throughout the race, Katie. The vets checked him out afterwards. He's tested clinically normal. So maybe it's just that in Grade 1 company, going left-handed, he simply cannot do it.
I just don't think he's anywhere near as good a horse as he is going right-handed. We have enough proof to the pudding now to see that with him. I really am hoping that Connections just decide to skip Cheltenham this term and concentrate on those right-handed tracks in the spring festivals over in Ireland, because I do think he could be very, very effective there, and he'll probably have the advantage that a lot of these rivals will be heading over to Cheltenham and Aintree, and he'll be able to pick up the pieces this side the water. If you look at his kind of RPRs, like his lowest are kind of around left-handed tracks. Like his highest RPRs are coming around, Punchestown and Limerick, not Cheltenham and Leopardstown, as we've seen. So really hope Connections kind of have a view towards keeping them to this side of the water, the spring festivals in mind over here, and keep him in one piece for that. I think it's just a real shame that he does have that kind of kink in him, but I don't know. That's probably what makes him very, very effective going right-handed, and just unfortunately, he just can't replicate that going left-handed.
Got away with it in that handicap hurdle, the Liffey, just because he was so well handicapped. Like, and if I remember rightly, I want to say another one of Willie's sat on his right-hand side and half sort of kept him in a bit. But that day he was only giving £1 to Ballyadam, which sort of gives you an idea of like quite how well handicapped he was. The day he did manage to win left-handed. Maybe if you can get him in a handicap round Cheltenham off like 140, maybe
waiting 5 years after that.
He'll get away with it one day. But that's the only circumstances I can see him winning left-handed. He can't win a Grade 1 left-handed, can he?
No, Cheltenham dream is over for Gaelic Warrior, I would imagine. Hopefully he's okay, because he's a serious racehorse. He'll win the Fairyhouse Gold Cup going right-handed. He'll win at Punchestown going right-handed. And hopefully he'll be a big player in the King George later on. If you're new to the Final Furlong podcast, you might not know that I am Hippocrates. I am constantly contradicting myself. Now, we like to use the phrase new evidence. On the basis of new evidence, I have changed my opinion. I would like to withdraw my complaint that Lossiemouth is not going for the champion hurdle. First of all, we'll come to Stateman towards the end of the show. Whoosh. Secondly, Rich Ritchie likes Cheltenham winners, and Gaelic Warrior is not going to do it for you. So go for the race you can win, and that's Lossiemouth. Also, I'll be using that argument to back up where certain Willie Mullins horses should be going at Cheltenham. Not all of you will agree with me. Not all of you will be happy with me. But we'll come to that a little bit later in the show. Il Etait Temps is just a stunning horse when it comes to the Dublin Racing Festival. A second Grade 1 in the space of 2 years from there. He completes the third leg of a Mullins 535 to 1 treble, if I could use my mouth words correctly, for Danny and Willie, and he's now been cut to 5 to 1 for the Arkle. Katie Young. He was 5 3/4 lengths within Vauban on his hurdling debut in a Grade 1 at the Dublin Racing Festival, and was then beaten over 8 lengths by him in the Triumph Hurdle. He beat In the Pocket by over 9 lengths at the Dublin Racing Festival last year. That horse turned the form around with him in the Supreme. He was great here, but can he carry that form forward to Cheltenham?
Very impressive performance. I know George was very sweet on him coming here, and he's been boasting his claims to this horse all season. So credit to George here for him. But yeah, kind of another game of Willie Mullins bingo with this horse. When your luck is in, and Danny was kind of riding on the crest of a wave. And it can really fill you with confidence in races like this. Very good performance. I thought he was very, very tough. He's like a little terrier, the way he sticks his head out under pressure, and he kind of gives you everything he has. Second year now, he's won a Grade 1 at this festival. Dropped back to 2 mile, seen him to really good effect here. I don't think he ran a bad race over 2.5 at Limerick, but I think he probably just has just that little bit too much of a high cruising speed to see him to be really good effect over 2.5. I do think he's showing a higher level of maturity over fences this season. It's kind of really straightened him out regards to how he can run a little bit keen over hurdles we've seen last year. I do have a question mark over the Cheltenham Festival form. We know he did flop a bit there last year, but I think he's coming into Cheltenham this year, like I said, a little bit more mature. Danny was able to ride him off a long rein here at Leopardstown. He didn't look keen at any point in the race. I think his jumping is very neat and efficient. And the way he settled here, I think it's opening up a lot more options for him. Still going to put my neck on the line here, and I still think Facile Vega is going to be so much better over 2.5. I was actually, the horse in this race, I thought he was the one to kind of take out of it with regards to future. I thought he actually put in a really good display here. I thought he had excuses with him at Christmas. He didn't jump well at all. He wasn't fluent, but I thought everything went right for him here. I just still think he just wants a trip. He's bred for a trip. And I think that's the missing piece to the puzzle with him. I can't wait to see him entered over 2.5. I know there was talk since he ran that between Willie and I think Patrick mentioned as well that they're going to think about stepping him up and trip, and they seem to think along those lines that is possibly where they could improve this horse. I just couldn't. I know Il Etait Temps was class, but I still couldn't get my head around what he could maybe do over 2.5. So with regards to that, excited to see what Facile Vega can do, and I hope he can back me up on this claim that I've been kind of saying all season, that do not lose hope in him, because there's still something left in him, and I liked what I seen at the weekend with him, so very excited with him. Fan 50 ran a great race again, lost nothing in defeat. I'd say Gordon's very, very excited about him going to Cheltenham. He could run a big race there. I think I just mentioned Nationale. Never happy with him at any point during the race. Just don't think he travelled and jumped with the easy shoulders before. I thought he looked outpaced and under pressure at various points in the race, and he just didn't look comfortable at all. And Michael O'Sullivan, I think he kind of distress signals were showing quite early with him. The kind of tongue tie wind up issue that was raised before his run at Christmas, this was raised as a small issue, might actually be a bigger issue than once suggested, and it'll be interesting to see what happens with him coming out of this race. But very, very disappointing. I expected massive things from him, and we just didn't see them. A lot of questions answered with him now. I don't know what they're going to do with him. Like, how can you go into Cheltenham off the back of a bad run like that? I haven't heard since what they may have suggested, but yeah, I think this could be a very open race now coming into Cheltenham, and you could throw JPR1 in there. Gets very interesting.
I feel really sorry for Il Etait Temps. He's just stepped up, won a second grade one, and yet all Katie wants to do is bang on about, Facile Vega, I've only got eyes for Facile Vega.
I'm sorry, I just can't help it.
Poor Il Etait Temps. But just to be fair, on the Marie Nationale story, because if you look at the Arkle market, George, it's like a cryptocurrency market. It's so volatile. It's like off the charts. Now, we did warn about this. The three of us were very impressed with what Marie Nationale had done on his chase debut, but the three of us also emphasised he's had a solo out in front. His jumping was never tested at any point. He was never put under any pressure at any point. You haven't really learned what this horse can do, and he's going to have to step up into Grade 1 company and prove his jumping. Now, it's all very well and good to look at him and go, oh my goodness, that Marie Nationale. Oh my goodness, what a jumper. He's Pegasus 2.0. They should run him against El Fabiolo. He'd beat everything. But when you put him in Grade 1 company, what's he going to find? And he didn't find a whole lot. The vets tested him as well. Clinically normal. Now, he's going to be scoped. They're going to check him physically, see was there anything wrong. Ground has been used as an excuse by a few people. Time form, I would imagine, can't buy that, though. And you're shaking your head, George. The ground, according to time form, and I would trust them way more than I would trust anybody else when it comes to official going. The going for his chase debut at Leopardstown was heavy. The going at the weekend was soft. So it can't have been ground. And Michael O'Sullivan was offering no excuses straight after the race either. What did you make of Marie Nationale's run?
He won I know it wasn't ideal, but he won a Royal Bond on really bad ground last year. My take was basically, sort of, if you remember what I said after his chase debut, was he was always able that day, if he met a fence not right, he was sort of slowing right up into it and popping it, which you obviously can't do in Grade 1 company. You have to fiddle. You have to maintain speed and fiddle. And it wasn't that I was saying he couldn't do it after the first day. It was, I'd really have liked to have seen him do it, seen him under some pressure and had to just, essentially just sort of muddle his way over a fence before he stepped up into Grade 1 company. And at the end of the day, I think it's just ended up being too big an ask for a horse going from a beginner's chase into a Grade 1. It's not to say he won't be able to do it one day. I think on this day it was too big an ask, and he was guessy at his fences. I don't really buy into the whole wind angle. I've seen like a few people saying like, "Oh, look at his head carriage. He was gasping for air. He was trying like a sort of rat in a sewer trying to get air into his lungs." But I can't see it. I've watched the race back 3 different times to try and see what people are saying. I just don't think he jumped well enough. Like, he made a big move coming around the last bend into about the second last, and then he's made the mistake at the last, and he sat up on him. It's simple as that. He probably could have finished upside Facile Vega if he kept going on him. I think he's just, the race is gone. He doesn't want to put him on the deck on his second ever start over fences, and he's minded him. Like, he's probably value for better than getting beat 10 1/4 lengths. But I just think on the day his jumping didn't hold up to the task against more experienced chasers, especially like Il Etait Temps, who is the master, a bit like El Fabiolo. His jumping's not perfect, but he knows how to make a mistake. He knows how to muddle his way over, minimise the impact of those mistakes. And I was always, like Katie said, I was always going to be keen on him to run better back down to nearly 2 miles. Like he's got bags of speed, this horse. Like they've had to put a hood on him to be able to hold him in Grade 1 juveniles, Grade 1 2 mile novice hurdles. The past couple of seasons, he's got bags of pace. And interesting with him, the first time tongue tie as well on the Il Etait Temps. So if he was maybe having a bit of an issue, or maybe he was just making a noise because he wasn't quite getting home over 2-3, 2-4. But yeah, I'd be really keen on him now. Actually, from Katie's point of view, now they've got the winner of the Irish Arkle, Mullins. It might finally free him up to run Facile Vega in the Turners. Because now he has one of the top, it should be favourite, really, Il Etait Temps for the Arkle now. And that does free him up to, if he's been thinking of stepping up Facile Vega in trip, he can now. Problem is, he's obviously just going to run into a different Mullins horse over there. But it might just free him up there. I think the winner of the Arkle, though, could well be found a 50.
Oh, yes, Georgie boy.
He's a 2.5 miler all day long. Right now, 2.5 mile is his best trip. And yet his best chance of winning a race at the festival is the Arkle. Because it's just going to put that little bit more emphasis on stamina at Cheltenham. And like you said, Il Etait Temps has been beat twice at Cheltenham already. I think Pound of 50 will outstay him up the hill at Cheltenham. And what else is there? Marine Nationale is going to have to learn a lot in a very short space of time if he even goes to Cheltenham. He's beaten everything else he needs to beat in this race, apart from Il Etait Temps, which I think this change to Cheltenham is going to go in his favour. I think he's 7-1. I'd maybe play him non-runner, no bet for the Arkle, because, like I said, I do think his best trip's 2.5. But his best chance of winning a race at Cheltenham is, strangely, in the 2 mile.
The distance of the Irish Arkle is 2 mile 1. The distance of the Arkle at Cheltenham is 1 mile 7 and blah, 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 whatever. It's basically just shy of 2 miles. If Jack Kennedy uses the proven stamina found at 50, so it rides him prominently, possibly tries to make all the running. But once you get to the final turn, have him in a very nice rhythm and then just go. Gun him. Send him straight out. Ask him to go win the race. It's going to take something really, really good to nail him on the line. Because he will fly up that Cheltenham hill because of the stamina, and he's got the speed as well. Plus, he'll be having his 5th start in the Arkle. It's the stamina and running style that will suit him better, particularly over a trip of a flat 2 miles at Cheltenham as opposed to the 2 mile 1 at Leopardstown. Danny was very brave in Il Etait Temps, but you're still on a Mullins outsider, so you can afford to come fast and late and be the last one to challenge. I don't think you can do that at Cheltenham.
No. You'd be outstayed. I know it's funny because it's a shorter trip, but it's much harder to use when you have, like, basically what Il Etait Temps has, it's basically flat speed. It's very hard to use that around a track like Cheltenham. You're constantly going uphill and down dale, and you're on the turn most of the way round. And then you've got this big stiff uphill finish. It's a mile 7, certainly at the Cheltenham Festival, was far more of a stamina test than 2 mile 1 around Leopardstown. That's all about cruising speed, which he has in absolute abundance.
There is a deceptive incline at Leopardstown. If you stand there and you look down at the track, you can see. In fact, if you go down to the bottom hill and look up, you can see just what an incline there is. But Leopardstown is still a left-handed flat track. Cheltenham is a left-handed undulating track. And we've seen him twice there now, and he just doesn't seem to be as effective on that as he is around Leopardstown. Do we have our international correspondent, Ivan Venko, who was at Leopardstown, spoke with Barry Connell, went right up to him and recorded what he said to him? I don't know if Barry Connell appreciated this, but this is what Ivan Venko had to say to Barry Connell in the parade ring after Marine Nationale's defeat.
If you can make God bleed, then people will cease to believe in him. And there will be blood in the water, and the sharks will come.
I don't think Barry appreciated that at all. Lowest moment of his racing career, well, one of them. And along comes Ivan Venko. Yeah, but the blood is in the water now, and the sharks are going to come. So the idea of a small field for the Arkle is over. because now everyone's going to want to have a pop. And that the novice handicap chase that was axed from Cheltenham and moved to Sandown the weekend before the festival, like a lot of contenders would have gone for that race instead. I think they'll all want their day out at the Arkle now. They'll all want to come to Cheltenham and take a pop at it. So you're definitely going to have a double figure field for the race. In terms of Marie Nationale's overall form for this, that novice chase form is not working out well at all. Every single horse who has run since that race has been thumped. And on a line through firm footings, who was bought today for €330,000, Marie Nationale beat him by 8.5 lengths. Hunter's Yarn beat him by 17 lengths. Willie Mullins was winning this race for the 6th time in the last 10 years. 4 of his winners went on to win the Arkle at Cheltenham. But one of his Arkle winners didn't run in this race, is Hunter's Yarn. I know you're shaking your head. He made a jumping error on his debut and he fell. He's clattered a fence on his second start over fences. But he is a classy horse, George, and he might be better suited to Cheltenham than Il Etait Temps.
I just can't have it. For him to fall the way he did the first day and show he had learned nothing the next day, I just think he's a thug. And if he's not careful, he'll end up on the deck at Cheltenham as well.
But those Cheltenham fences are soft. Those Cheltenham fences are soft. John Baum was able to stand up. Elixir de Nuit was able to plough through the third last and stand up. They're not what they used to be.
Broadway Boy got away with one this year. Yeah, maybe you're right. I certainly wouldn't. Well, I'd love to ride anything in the Arkle, but if I could take my pick, he wouldn't be top 6.
Well, if you want to live, if you want to survive and get through the festival riding Hunter's Yarn, wouldn't exactly be the brightest of ideas. Marie Nationale also beat Monbeg Park by 21 lengths. Spillane Tower beat him by 51 lengths. Like, the more I thought about this, if Irish Point was to face Marie Nationale again over hurdles, who'd win?
Right now, it would be Irish Point because he's been hurdling. Like if you gave Marie Nationale a prep run for it over hurdles, maybe it'd be different. But right now, Irish Point would beat him.
Yeah, I still think Marie Nationale is a classy horse, and it's not like he's now a has-been. He's done, and he'll be living in a bedsit in Scotland somewhere, reminiscing about the old days as he drinks cans of lager. But no, he will be back in Grade 1 company very soon, and I'm sure he'll be winning again. But his Arkle chance is severely compromised by this performance. I just think he lacks experience. If I could do anything with him, I would find some suitable race in the next couple of weeks, get him into it, try and get the experience for him, and then go for the Arkle. But it's too late to do that. And the horses who finished in front of him all had more experience than he did. And I think that's what's cost him in the end. Don't think it was the ground. Maybe there's some physical issue that will come to light. By the time this podcast is out, maybe Barry Connell will be able to send out the smoke signals and tell everybody what was wrong. We need this horse to do well because we need people like Barry Connell. Otherwise, Irish racing is just the Willie Mullins show. And I'm a great admirer of Willie's. But, man, 8 Grade 1s all going to Willie Mullins. That's not good for new fans of the sport. Formula One is failing because of one team's dominance. The Premier League became boring last year because of one team's dominance. It's not good.
Excuse me.
I forgot the fact that George is an Arsenal fan, and now I have to say, congratulations, George. Well done. You were the better team, and
takes a big man, Emmet. It takes a big man.
Oh yeah, I was so sincere in my congratulations to you as well. Can he's 11-4 now for the Arkle. Is he a bet at that price, George Gorman?
Absolutely not. I think if you're playing bank or bust, that's got to be the biggest bust of the lot. The only one that's a bigger bust is I see some people still have Allaho in as favourite for the Rhino. That's probably the only bigger bust.
Yeah, not good. Not good. Katie, does 11-4 tempt you about Marie Nationale for the Arkle?
No, not at all. You can't be going to Cheltenham off a run like that. Ideally, you'd like to see him run again, maybe a lesser grade, get a little bit of confidence back into him and see where he goes from there. But I think Cheltenham now, off the back of that run, is just too much of an ask for him now. And I think, back to a smaller step and then go build it back up from there with him, I'd say.
The price is an insult to the horses that beat him the other day. Like I think it's ridiculous to still have him in as favourite after that. When you've got to think he's evens to run. Like, I think it's an insult, frankly, to some very good horses that beat him.
I still think he'll run.
Like,
I don't think he'll win.
Horses can have an off day, so don't write him off completely. But in regards to Cheltenham, I just can't see anything jumping out at me coming towards that. But like I said, just don't write him off completely with regards to the future, because horses can bounce back. I just don't think he has enough time between now and Cheltenham to do that.
And hopefully he'll learn from that. Like I said, he's jumping. He was conceding experience all round, and he could well learn and put in a much better round of jumping next time. The horse is obviously intelligent. He's obviously got ability. You don't get to the level he got over hurdles without being intelligent. There's a good chance he will learn and he will run a much better race in the Arkle. But could you back him as favourite? That's what we're talking about, is value. And like, that horse is not value at that price. The chances of him improving that much from his second start over fences to his third start over fences isn't 11-4. It's more like 5-6 to 1.
He was able to win a Grade 1 over hurdles off the back of one maiden run last season, but he wasn't able to replicate that this season over fences. With regards to saying that he hasn't got the experience, you could say that last year, but he managed to do it. But this year, he just didn't show that spark that he was able to show us last year. And I know it's a tougher ask over fences, but people were saying that last year about him going into that Grade 1 off the back of one maiden hurdle run. And he found that no problem. So just to note that as well, that they tried to replicate that this year over fences and it just didn't work out.
I would say in that maiden hurdle, he didn't get a freebie out in front. He actually had to learn how to jump because he was in amongst horses, which probably made at least a slight difference, you know. And I think it's almost a bigger learning curve from hurdles to fences than it is from not jumping at all to hurdles, if that makes sense.
Yeah, he never ran in a point to point. Like, he was bought during COVID times. So you can talk about the great work he's done at home and what a natural jumper of a fence he is. We're not talking about show jumpers here. We're talking about race horses. You have to race at Grade 1 pace against Grade 1 horses. It's a completely different thing over fences to hurdles. I think experience is the thing that's caught him out. Barry Connell is a great horseman. If anybody can do it, it's going to be Barry. But George has nailed it. You're talking about an 11-4 shot. If you're a massive diehard Marine Nationale fan, you're loving that. But you're taking one hell of a chance at that price, and it makes zero appeal to me.